Good evening, and a very warm welcome to the regular Friday talk from Harrow and Leicester. I'm very pleased to welcome Sister Suman here this evening for our talk. I've known Suman, I was counting up the years, and it's been for many years, so I'm delighted and looking forward to her talk. The topic tonight is stepping into happiness. So Suman, thank you for being with us, and I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. So, anytime I'm asked to share on a topic, I always take a little bit of time out, an afternoon, a couple of hours, sometimes just an hour, with my notebook and pen, and to see what comes to the surface of my mind very naturally. And I always ask myself a question. What is it that the audience today, what is the message for the audience today? And I always get one very specific thought coming. So during the course of the evening, I'm going to share more about what that thought was, because it's relevant to whoever's going to be online tonight. One of the thoughts that I had is that essentially we can say there are two types of happiness: inner happiness and outer happiness. Lasting happiness and fleeting happiness. And fleeting happiness is actually, in the long run, very hard work. Because fleeting happiness, I suppose, is the difference between drinking Coca-Cola and coconut water. With the Coca-Cola, you get a real feel-good very fast. And but it's full of sugar. And eventually it may even corrode your insides. The coconut water doesn't have the fizz, doesn't have the excitement. It's more placid, more plain, more simple. But it's nourishing, very, very nourishing. And so what type of happiness do I want? And I think many of us do opt for the fleeting happiness because it's, in one way, it's easier to it's more within our reach. And the fleeting happiness comes can come from many things, but all those things are outside of us. You know, it can come from a nice day at the beach. It can come from, I don't know, going for a haircut and you're really pleased with the way it turns out. It can come from people applauding your performance. You know, you've achieved something at work and you walk in and all your office mates cheer you because you did something great for the company. And so you're, for that moment, you feel good. You feel happy. But it wears off. And at the back of your mind, at the back of our minds, when we play with that type of happiness, at the back of our minds, there is this little voice. It's called the voice of conscience. And it doesn't speak very loudly. Often it just is a little whisper. And so it gets drowned out in the noise of life. But this little whisper says to us, it's on high alert. It's looking, it knows it needs to find the next source to replenish itself. So it's constantly seeking, constantly on the hunt. So it's restless. It's not relaxed because it knows it needs to find its next prey, its next source. And so, yeah, you feel happy with that fleeting happiness, with those things. But at the same time, you don't experience comfort. In the Hindi language, there are a number of words that describe different shades of happiness. That's the best way I can think to describe it, shades. So we have several words, but when we translate it into English, the translation is always happiness. Mostly it's happiness. And one of those words is sukh. One of the words in Hindi for happiness is sukh. And very often they pair up this word with another word. They say sukh jan. And jan is a very interesting word that means comfort, being at peace, having arrived, rested. And I was wondering today, why do they put happiness and comfort together? And it made me and I realized, because often you see we use words, whether it's in the English language or our own native tongue, we use words without really considering what their origin is. So I was just saying, why do they put these two words together, happiness and comfort? And that's what came to me, that when we are going for this fleeting happiness that is really very easy to get, then we're not at rest, we're not at comfort, we're not at ease. And so what is the type of happiness that we want to step into? Tonight, the talk title is Stepping into Happiness. What's the type of happiness I want to step into? And I'd like to spend the next couple of minutes sharing with you my experience of the other type of happiness. Because I've experienced both the outer happiness and the inner happiness. My experience of the inner happiness is that it's very liberating. It's very empowering. Happiness and power go together. It's very empowering, and there's this sense inside of you that no one and nothing can snatch it away from you. And there's this sense that it isn't coming to you from anyone, and so they can't put an embargo on it. They can't sanction it. Often, especially in relationships, sometimes we do many things to please others. Sometimes they'll ask us to do something that we're not quite comfortable with, but we'll do it anyway. And if we check our motivation very carefully, if we examine our motivation, it's because somewhere deep down inside we think, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose their love. They're not going to be happy with me. They're just going to stop their supply of love for me, friendship towards me. And so we comply. But it's fear-based then, you know? And it's dependent. I'm dependent on them to supply my happiness. And dependency is not a nice place to be in. And that's what outer happiness is like. But inner happiness, you have this very clear sense that the happiness that you're feeling is coming from inside you, from the depth of your soul. The happiness that you experience is not dependent on any physical, on any material possession, on any environment, circumstance, person. It's your personal property. You are supplying yourself. Your happiness, and you have the sense that it's coming from deep inside of you. No one can take it away. it's uncontaminated. It's not touched by the pollution that's around us. It's soul happiness. And later on, we're going to examine how do I get to that safe happiness, that uninhibited, that happiness that makes me feel like I can do anything, that happiness that is the fuel behind motivation, that happiness that makes me feel so nourished and well and open-hearted and unafraid and ready to take on the world. How do I get to that soul happiness, that inside happiness? How do I move away from the outside happiness, from the addiction to the outside happiness, and arrive at a place where I can step into inner happiness? But before we look at that, I told you at the beginning, right at the start, when I started speaking, that for every audience, there's always like a special thought that comes about what that audience, what is it that the universe wants to give that audience. And so for this particular audience, the thought that came was something like this. Happiness is easy, actually. Happiness is waiting. It's outside your front door. The only thing separating me from that happiness is the fact that the door is closed. As soon as I open that door, happiness will walk in. And what is that door symbolic of? And what came was this, that door is symbolic of a very insidious, invisible belief. Invisible belief that with the naked eye cannot be seen. And it's a belief that I don't deserve to be happy. That is the door that is stopping happiness from coming into my life. And we may not be conscious that this belief is operating inside of us. We may not hear it expressed in the words that I've used. I've been very blunt about it. But you may have noticed that I use the word invisible, insidious, lurking. There are certain beliefs that keep themselves hidden from our conscious mind so that we can't see them, and therefore we cannot eliminate them and we cannot tame them. We know there's something there, or we suspect that there's something there, but because we can never see it, we kind of put it down to, oh, I must be imagining it. Like a thief in your house and you hear some noise downstairs and you come down, you look around, you don't see anything, and then you just convince yourself, oh, it was nothing. I must have just imagined. And so we have certain very deep-seated beliefs that in our lives, they are actually an obstruction for us experiencing success. And my personal experience has been that when it comes to happiness, it's this particular belief working away. I don't deserve to be happy. And it comes from maybe a lifetime where we've made mistakes. We've hurt people. We didn't do as well as we wanted to do. So somewhere we believe we're an underachiever. We get cross with people, we get angry with people, we have thoughts of revenge. And every time we have those type of thoughts, and we all have them, there's a part of us that makes a little note. There's a note taker, like in the courts you have a scribe. And they sit there and they record everything. So we have a note taker inside of us. And it's taking all these notes. And every time it takes notes about the wrong or misguided thoughts and feelings we have, we begin to feel guilty. Our pocket, our briefcase, our store of guilt, consciously, whether we're conscious of it or not, it gets heavier and heavier. And the heavier that case, that storage is, the more this belief is fueled that I'm not worthy of happiness. I don't deserve to be happy. So if that is the obstruction, that is the door, the question then arises, what can I do to eliminate this obstacle, this barrier, this door? And I think there are a few things came to mind when I asked myself that question. One of the first thing that came to mind was to remove that obstacle. There is an opposite belief. And that belief is that I need to replace or counteract this undeservingness. And that is that 3 words, very simple. I am valuable. I am valuable. And although it sounds simple, we may or may not be able to digest it. Just because I'm telling you that that thought is the key to unlock the door, it doesn't mean that when this program is over, and if you go away and you say to yourself, I am valuable, that it's going to work. That one thought on its own may not be enough. It needs some backup. Like in a pop group, you have the vocalists, they're doing what do you call it? The background vocals, the background singing. The main lead singer, you're the lead singer, but you need some backup. And for me, what I'm about to share is the crux of today's program, is the crux of what is important if I want to step into happiness. How do I convince myself that I am valuable? There may be many ways, but two things that came to mind that I'd like to share with all of you tonight is first one, think about the times in your life, scan your life, and think about the times in your life when something untoward could have happened to you, but you were saved in the nick of time. Something happened that changed the course of things. You know, it could be you were about to, I don't know, have a car accident, but you saw something just in the nick of time and you were okay. It could be something as dramatic as that. It could be something more simple. You were about to say something that would have landed you in a lot of trouble. And somehow the will to not say it suddenly surged up inside of you from as if from nowhere. So, and I would give an umbrella title to all those moments, and I would say it's like divine providence, divine help, help from the universe that just came to your aid. Make a list of all those moments in your life, or just a few, just a couple even. This exercise it will show you how valued you are. It will awaken a sense of value inside. Something could have happened to me. It didn't happen to me. Help came. And that help came because I am valuable. Because I need to be well and alive and exist. To keep the balance in this world. I may think I'm just another ordinary person who nobody knows. In the big scheme of things, I'm not an Obama or a big prime minister or president. But actually, you know how the BBC do these Planet Earth programs, I think they're called. I have a friend who is crazy about nature and the animal world. She always jokingly says animals are much better, less work than human beings. Rubbish the people. The animals is the best. She's a Hispanic person. And she was telling me one day how there's some insect, I forget which insect it was, and she said there's something that they secrete that is a tiny little insect, and I don't remember what it was, but there's some secretion that they have that actually keeps the balance of the earth. And I was fascinated by the principle of that. There's such a tiny thing that, something small like a ladybird or something that, you may not give a second thought to. But the balance of the earth, of nature, they are providing something that is absolutely vital for the planet. And it's the same for each one of us. We may not be aware of it, but each one of us is bringing something to our environment, to the world at large, to our local world, to our very domestic homes, there is something we were put there for. We may not be aware of it, but we were put here and we exist. Every single one of us, from the top cat to the bottom cat, we all exist for a reason. And when I do an exercise like I've just gone through, it kind of brings me closer to that sense of self-value. And the self-value, then it's very easy from that place to ease, to segue into the sense that I deserve to be happy. The second question, to help that sense of happiness, that sense of value increase inside of me. What do I bring to what's special about me and what I do? What's my contribution? It may be something really simple and mundane, but other people around me don't have it in the same way that I have it, and it makes a difference. Let me give you some examples for myself. So, I'll give you 3 examples. So for myself, I would say that one thing I have that maybe not so many people around me have, and so I specialize in it, and we all specialize in different things. Nobody's lesser or greater, we're just different. So one thing for myself is that if anyone asks me for help, 9 out of 10 times I will instantly stop what I'm doing, even at the busiest of times. Occasionally, if I have a deadline to meet, then that's the exception. But 9 out of 10 times I will stop what I'm doing and go to the nth degree to help that person find what they need. That's a specialty. Another one. I like to keep things in order. And I don't like, and it's not that I do it because I'm addicted to neatness or something like that, but it comes from a space of, if things are easy to find for people, it saves their time. It makes their life easy. And so that's another specialty. Anyway, we all can have long lists. So I've just given you 2 examples as to maybe kickstart. What is it about you, your skills, your virtues, your principles that's unique to you? Unique in the environment where you are, in the household where you are, in the workplace where you are. What do you specialize in? So when we start to make these 2 explorations, it goes a long way to increasing this sense of, actually, you know what, I'm valuable, I do deserve. Um, inner happiness. I said I would come back at some point to talk a little bit more about where inner happiness comes from. Those of you who are watching this program will, well, I imagine you know, or the majority of you know, that in the Brahma Kumaris, our key offering is the offering of meditation. And the key principle in that meditation, the basis of that meditation is working with an understanding that there are two elements to every human being. There is the physical, and that's this body, everything you see. And there is the metaphysical. There is the soul, body and soul. And meditation is about being more soul aware. And not just soul aware, but soul conscious. You would have heard the expression that's become very popular in the recent few decades, conscious living, mindful living. And so in Brahma Kumaris, this is one of the key things that we offer, this understanding that to be soul conscious, conscious of the soul. So what is this soul? We know so much about the body. We do so much for the body, the well-being of the body. We exercise, we eat properly, we drink water, we sleep. All of these things are there to nurture and look after the body. But what do we do for the soul? And the soul is who I really am. And it's because of this basic imbalance that there is unwellness. Any physical unwellness that we have, is because the body's lost balance somewhere. It's some nutrient is out of balance, some vitamin is deficient, some natural balance has been lost. And that's when we experience disease or unwellness. But it's the same emotionally. Some imbalance, and the imbalance is that we've become so body aware, and all our focus and attention, or the majority of our focus and attention, is on the body, but we haven't paid attention to the soul. So there is no balance. It's really literally like, oops, I'm trying to do it on the camera so you can see me. One is heavier than the other. Body conscious of the body is up here, and consciousness, awareness of the soul, that mindful aspect, is lower down on the scale. And when I bring the two things together, and they do need to be together, it shouldn't be that I become one of those astral people who walks around with their head in the clouds, meditating all day, without any awareness of my responsibilities and the things that keep me grounded. That's not right either. But an awareness of both and how soul and body work together is what brings wellness and is the doorway to inner happiness. So a little more about the soul. What is this soul that we hear this word? What does it look like? What does it do? Does it have a physical form? Can I see it with my eyes? Does it talk? What does it do? What's its function? Where does it stay? Is it in my nose? Is it in my ear? Is it in my tummy? Is it in my heart chakra? Where is soul? What is soul? And the understanding that we have in Brahma Kumaris is that the soul or the inner being or the spirit lives on the inside, first thing. And it is a very noble, intelligent, conscious personality. It is this inner being, this being is made of a light that is very, very, very pure and uncontaminated and unpolluted. It's not like the physical light that we see. It's not like the sunlight. It's not like the light from the bulbs. It is a very unique type of light, a very pure, potent, calming, cooling light. And the source of that light is just a tiny, tiny, tiny dot, if you like the dot on the top of your eye when you write. It is a small, small, infinitesimally small being. And it has a very specific location in the body. And that location is, it sits behind these two eyes. It sits here. Oh, so that it can see through the eyes, just like a driver sits at the front of the car, not at the back of the car. Unless, of course, you've got one of these new fancy cars that drive themselves automatically. It's gone out my mind what they're called. Tesla, that's it. The Tesla cars. So it sits behind the windscreen of these eyes. And this tiny dot that is so full of might and this pure light, it thinks, it feels, it experiences, it decides, it is conscious, it is genderless. You wouldn't say that light is a he or a she. This being, the inner being, goes beyond gender. It doesn't have an age. It is not old or young. That inner being, that soul, is immortal, indestructible, eternal, no beginning, no end. It moves through a passage of time forever on a journey. It is an ancient being, a wise being. And meditation is just really about turning inwards to become conscious and aware of that presence of that being. And that's the real me, actually. I am a soul. And I am in this physical body. I am speaking through this mouth. I am seeing with these eyes. I'm hearing with these ears. And you will have heard me say in the last 30 seconds, I see through these eyes. I speak through this mouth. I hear through these ears. That I is a point of light. I am the soul, the being of light that lives in this body. This body is like my home, and I am the homeowner. This body is like my car, and I'm the driver. And when that's one step, to step inwards and become aware, conscious of the soul, of the fact that I am a soul. But then there's another step. Even in what is inside the soul, what's at the center, at the core of this being of that is eternal, limitless, pure light. What is right in the heart, and right in the heart, in the core, in the center of that point, there is a well of 5 very specific qualities that make human life worth living. And those 5 qualities are love, peace, happiness, truth, power. Happiness is in me, the soul. And when I sit for meditation and I go inwards in that way and I touch the happiness that's already inside of me, I think we call that joy. It's a very satisfying feeling. It's just the joy of being alive, the joy of existing. It's joy, it's not dependent on anything. And it comes deep from inside. And then it's not just. Then there is another step even beyond that. And that is, if I am a soul, who created me, the soul? Where did I, the soul, begin my journey from? And as I ask myself the question, and I believe that for every question we ask, even if we ask it of another person, actually the answer to that question lies within me, lies deep inside the soul. We don't really need anyone to answer our questions. We can answer all our own questions. We just have to become quiet enough to hear what the inner wisdom tells us. And so in that space, if I ask myself the question, so where did I originate from? Where did I, the soul, that being, that point of pure light, where did I originate from? Where did I begin my journey from? How was I created? How was I, the soul, born? Then somewhere deep in the recesses of our memories, we may find that there is an image of another soul that is similar in form to us, but so much more unlimited. And that soul has many names. We can call that soul the super soul. It's a soul who is the protector of all mankind. It is a soul who is benevolent in an unlimited way. A soul that is an ocean, a vast ocean of kindness, mercy, love, forgiveness. This super soul that is the creator of all mankind, of all humanity. And when we tap into this universality, this truth, then it's like all the divisions of caste, color, religion, age, all that pales away. Doesn't matter. There is one super soul and either soul. And we are an army of souls on this planet Earth, each inhabiting our own body, our own dwelling, our own home, here to contribute something unique. And the many colors that we are together create a beautiful painting. And there are good days and there are bad days. That's okay. But we're on a journey together, all of mankind, and we are one. When I step inside and move myself into such thoughts that are beyond my normal day-to-day life, mundaneness, that are more vast, just like we unpacked in the last few minutes, there's a kind of peace that comes over us. There's a kind of truth that comes over us. And the joy that you feel at being in touch with the truth of who you are, where you came from, where you're going, that is where inner happiness is born, is felt. It's of a very different nature to outer happiness. And I believe that my time may be up now, so thank you all very much. I can't see you, but thank you all very much for being with us this evening. And I'm going to hand back to Carolyn now so that she can tell us what's next.
Thank you, Suman. I really loved that. That feeling of not being worthy, not being deserving, I think is something so many of us feel. And we have a couple of questions come through for you. Once we have found that happiness, how do we hold on to it so it is constant?
Excellent question. So as the question was being asked, what came into my mind was one word: criticism. I think from what I've observed, one of the things, it's like, let's just imagine happiness. I'm like a bucket, and I'm a bucket full of happiness. It just takes one little crack at the bottom of the bucket for all my happiness to slip away. And the crack for me is the nature of being critical. You know, it's just so natural for us to judge things, to resist things, to question people, to not believe in them, to trust them, to be suspicious of them, to doubt them, when all of this comes under the category of criticism. To be pessimistic. And I think an active, conscious attention to always seeing the best helps us to sustain and hold on to happiness.
It's lovely. Thank you. That feels very real. One more question is, how do you explain guardian angels?
I think a guardian angel could be anyone who's walking on this earth. The only prerequisite to being a guardian angel is a willingness to want to help. I had a very extraordinary experience many years ago that helped me understand what guardian angel is. And there was a huge event happening, and there was there was a room, and it was the end of the event, and you know how the buzz is at the end of a really good event, and it was a crowded reception area, and there was this one lady who was supposed to drive the main speaker onto the next destination after the program, and it was they were quite a high profile speaker, so it was like a little bit of a big deal to make sure the driver knew where they were going. And somehow the driver needed help with directions, but there was just this sea of chatter and noise and chaos in the reception area. And this person, I was just standing in a corner, and this person was trying to ask many people for some assistance. And somehow nobody was able to or willing to. And I was, I don't know, it all happened very quickly, but it's like, I felt like my feet carried me to where this person was. And I don't remember it being something that I initiated myself. It's like my feet took over. And before I knew it, my feet were just going through this crowd, and I felt like a bit like the how they described that story of the Red Sea parting. And I felt myself go through this crowd, get to where this person was, and to this day I can remember that scene. And then my feet got me there, and then I felt my hand, and I didn't feel like it was me. It didn't feel self-initiated, which is why it's so crystal clear in my mind even today. And I felt my hand go up, and I tapped this lady on the shoulder, and I said to her, "Just wait here. I'll get you a printout of the directions. I know the next place that you're going to and how to get there, but just wait for me here. I'll be back in a minute." And then I managed to weave myself out of this crowd, and I found myself going into an office area, and I knew exactly where to look. There were some printed directions there already. I picked them up, and I quietly went back to that person, put it in her hand without a word. So that the whole thing was hardly any words exchanged. And in the days following that, I reflected on this amazing feeling of lightness that I had, lightness of step, lightness of mind, like somebody was making me move. I reflected on it and I thought, one of the reflections I had is there was a room full of people. How comes me? And the thought that came was that it's like that person who was a little distressed because I had this responsibility to deliver this person. There was a plea that went out from their heart. Oh my God, what am I going to do? How do I do this? Who do I go to? And that plea reached God. And then I had the experience that it's as if God was like some light, like one of those rotating lights that they have for security. And so there was this beam of light looking in this reception to see whose antennae was open, whose mind was open. And my mind was open and receptive at that moment in time. And so this beam of light dropped the thought into my head, planted it in, help this person. And so from that, I understood that anybody can be made an instrument or a guardian angel to help another. The only prerequisite is to be open in mind, open in heart, and willing. I hope that it's the best way I could think of explaining it.
I think that's very clear. I think it's not something I've understood before, but very clear. We've got some lovely comments. First one is, thank you so much for a very inspirational, well thought out talk. Just what I needed. Om Shanti. Another one, lovely, inspiring session. Thanks. God bless. And the third one, thank you for your beautiful sharing and most interesting points you raised. So it sounds as though other people have enjoyed your talk as much as I have. Can I just ask you now to lead us in a meditation, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me take a deep, deep breath in and out. In again and out. And as I do this breathing, two words come to mind. One is ease. I am at ease. And the second is comfort. I'm in a space where I feel comforted, cradled, safe, and at ease. I am relaxed, I am calm. And I begin to think on some of the things that I've heard this evening. And the one thing that comes to my mind is that I am more than body, I am soul. Conscious living. I am conscious that I am a soul, and that I, the soul, am a tiny being of pure, otherworldly light, And I sit behind these eyes looking out. And in the depth of, in the core of my being, in the core of I, the soul, is where my happiness lies. And I just feel the exquisiteness of the happiness that's inside me. It's a joy. It's a state of bliss, undisturbed, undeterred, deep, deep joy that comes from knowing that I am precious and I am valuable, and that I am wonderful just because I exist. I am that point of pure light, eternal, filled with joy and wonder. And I turn my thoughts just for a fraction of a second to the super soul who's watching me from up above and sending me rays of light and love. And that also brings a kind of joy to me, a double joy. And for the next few seconds, I just bathe myself in that joy, that deep-rooted inner happiness. And I feel that I'm being empowered, like a phone battery being charged. I'm being charged with happiness. And with that thought, I look through my eyes once again and become aware of where I am and how I can live my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Suman. That was lovely. And this evening you've given us an awareness that so many of us feel that we're not valuable, that we don't deserve happiness, and the steps we can go through to remind ourselves of our value and that each one of us is essential in today's world. And that in itself brings that touching to the soul that allows happiness to bubble up from within. And that connection with the Supreme Soul is just almost the icing on the cake when I really am truly soul conscious. So thank you so much. It's been a delight to have you with us this evening, and we do hope you'll come again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So thank you, everyone. And we hope you'll join us again next Friday, where the talk is called Facing Challenges. And Mara Rita Gomez is joining us for that session. Now, also, I'm sure you've already heard that we have a special event with Shivani on Saturday, the 2nd of April, where you can ask that one question that you still have. And we would ask you to register your questions as soon as possible to help us develop the program. And we're really looking forward to Shivani answering your questions. And that's the whole basis of the program. So your questions are vital. Just as Suman Ben explained that each one of us is vital in life, in the world. So please register your questions as soon as possible. And thank you again. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you.